She thought her shoes were shrinking. She even laughed about it once, told her daughter her feet must be growing again at 69 years old. But they weren't growing, and her shoes weren't shrinking. Something else was happening. Something nobody had explained to her yet. I want you to look at your feet right now, not later. Right now. Are your ankles the same size they were this morning when you first got out of bed? Or are they slightly larger? Slightly puffier? Does the skin feel tighter than it did a few hours ago? If the answer is yes, what you're about to hear is something your body has been trying to tell you for a long time. Here is the part that stops most people cold. That swelling in your feet and ankles is not water weight. It is not because you ate too much salt yesterday. It is not because you've been on your feet too long. In most adults over 60, it is a visible sign of something happening inside your blood vessels that has absolutely nothing to do with how much you weigh or how much you walked. And left unaddressed, it gets worse every single year. Quietly, predictably, without asking permission. The video you clicked on told you something true. Her shoes were getting tighter. And what was behind that is what nobody had told her. Stay with me. Dorothy is 69 years old. She lives in Florida. Active her entire life. Walked every morning on the beach near her house. Gardened 3 afternoons a week. Rarely sat still for more than an hour. She was, by every measure she knew, a healthy woman. And then, about 18 months ago, she noticed something small. Her favorite walking shoes felt tight. Not at the toe, at the ankle. Like the shoe had somehow gotten narrower since the last time she wore it. She assumed she'd bought the wrong size, ordered the same shoe in a half size larger. Those felt tight too. By the end of her morning walk, she mentioned it to her husband. He said, "Dorothy, maybe your feet are just swollen from the heat. It's Florida." Dorothy accepted that for about 3 months, until she noticed something that made her stop completely. She was sitting on the edge of the bed one evening, removing her socks, and where the sock had been, there was an indentation in her skin. A ring, a groove, pressed into her ankle like a mark left by something much tighter than a sock. She pressed her finger into the skin above her ankle. The indentation stayed for several seconds. Then, slowly, very slowly, filled back in. Dorothy sat there in the quiet of her bedroom and felt something she hadn't expected. Not pain, fear. Here is what was happening inside Dorothy's legs. And this is where most people, including most doctors in a standard 15-minute appointment, never go deep enough to explain. Your body circulates fluid constantly. Blood goes down. Blood comes back up. Lymphatic fluid moves through vessels alongside your blood. Waste products are carried away from tissue. Fresh nutrients are delivered. This system works beautifully. When it works. But here's what changes after 60. And this is the part that should concern you. The valves inside the veins of your lower legs, the tiny one-way doors that prevent blood from flowing backward as it travels up toward your heart, begin to weaken. Not all at once, not dramatically, quietly. Over years, one valve, then another. Each one making the journey upward slightly harder than before. When those valves weaken, blood doesn't move back up efficiently. It pools. It accumulates in the lower leg, and the pressure from that pooling forces fluid out of the blood vessels and into the surrounding tissue. That fluid is what Dorothy saw in her ankle. That indentation from her sock? That's called pitting edema, and it is one of the clearest visible signs of compromised venous return. Stop. Read that again. The sock mark that you've been ignoring, that you've been blaming on tight socks or too much salt, or a long day on your feet. That mark is your vascular system showing you something it cannot say any other way. It has no voice. It has no alarm. It has a sock mark. And it leaves it there every evening, hoping you'll finally ask what it means. A 2022 review published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery found that lower limb edema in adults over 60 is significantly underreported and undertreated, with most patients attributing symptoms to lifestyle factors for an average of 2.3 years before seeking evaluation. 2.3 years of sock marks. 2.3 years of tighter shoes. 2.3 years of a body asking, clearly, visibly, for attention it wasn't receiving. Dorothy had been ignoring hers for 18 months, and this is the part that nobody tells you. This is the part that matters most. Every month that passes without addressing venous insufficiency, the valves weaken further. The pooling increases. The tissue changes. And what begins as a sock mark at the end of the day can progress, silently, predictably, to something that requires a very different conversation with a very different specialist. The window to address this easily does not stay open forever. Dorothy was still inside that window, but only just. It was Dorothy's daughter who made the call. Not because Dorothy asked her to, because she noticed something at Sunday brunch that Dorothy had stopped noticing about herself. Her mother's ankles, both of them, visibly larger than they should be. Even first thing in the morning, even before Dorothy had been on her feet. She said nothing at the table, didn't want to alarm her mother, but she took a photo on her phone when Dorothy wasn't looking, just to have it. Just to compare later. She compared it to a photo from 3 months before. The difference was not subtle. That detail, swelling present even in the morning, is the detail that changes everything. Here is why. Swelling that appears at the end of the day and resolves overnight means the body is still compensating, still managing, still coping. Swelling that is present in the morning, before you've even stood up, means the system is no longer compensating. The fluid is no longer fully resolving. The body has stopped winning the overnight battle. That is a different conversation entirely. Her daughter made the appointment. The vascular specialist looked at Dorothy's legs and said something that stayed with her. "Dorothy, your veins have been working very hard for a very long time, and they've been losing ground quietly. The good news is, we caught this before it became something we can't easily address." Dorothy asked, "How long has this been happening?" The doctor said, "Based on what I'm seeing, probably 2 to 3 years, maybe longer. 2 to 3 years. Of morning walks on the beach, of gardening in the Florida sun, of a body doing everything right on the outside, while something underneath was slowly, silently changing." Dorothy looked at her hands for a moment, then back at the doctor. "What do I do?" The doctor gave her 4 things. Not surgery, not medication. 4 daily habits that directly support venous return and reduce the fluid accumulation that had been building for years. 4 things that Dorothy wished someone had told her 2 years earlier. The first habit was the one Dorothy least expected. Elevation, but done correctly. Not feet on a footrest, not legs on a pillow. Above heart level. Legs raised above the chest for 20 minutes. Twice a day. This uses gravity to pull accumulated fluid back toward the core of the body and relieves the pressure that builds in lower leg tissue. Dorothy did this after her morning walk and again before dinner. Within the first week, the evening swelling had reduced noticeably. The sock marks were lighter. The shoes fit better by Friday than they had in 18 months. The second habit was movement, but specific movement. Not walking, ankle circles. 30 rotations each direction, each foot, every time she sat down for more than 20 minutes. Each rotation activated the calf muscle pump, the mechanism that physically squeezes the deep veins of the lower leg and pushes blood back toward the heart. The pump her valves could no longer do alone. Her muscles could do for them. The third habit was compression, worn correctly. Medical-grade compression stockings, not the drugstore kind, worn from the moment she got out of bed and removed before lying down. Not because they're comfortable, because they provide the external pressure that her vein walls can no longer provide internally. The fourth habit was hydration, and this surprised Dorothy most. Her instinct had been to drink less water. Logically, less fluid meant less fluid pooling out. The opposite is true. When the body is dehydrated, it holds on to fluid as a protective response. The pooling gets worse. Drinking adequate water, 8 to 10 glasses daily, actually signals the body that fluid retention is unnecessary. Less holding, more moving. 4 habits, 18 months of sock marks, addressed. Within 6 weeks, Dorothy's morning ankles looked like Dorothy's ankles again. She wore her original walking shoes on a Tuesday morning in October and felt nothing tight at the ankle. She texted her daughter one word. Finally. 4 things, starting today. Elevate correctly, above heart level, 20 minutes, twice a day. After movement and before dinner. Not a pillow under the feet, above the chest. Ankle circles, every time you sit down for more than 20 minutes. 30 rotations each direction. Both feet. Your calf pump working for your veins. Compression. Medical grade. Worn from morning. Ask your doctor for the right level for your situation. Hydrate. 8 to 10 glasses of water daily. Not less. More. Let your body know it doesn't need to hold on. 4 habits. No prescriptions. No procedures. Starting tonight. Dorothy told me something I keep coming back to. She said, I spent 18 months thinking my shoes were the problem. I bought new ones, bigger ones. I blamed the Florida heat. I blamed everything except the one thing that was actually asking for my attention. The sock mark. Every evening. For 18 months. Visible. Specific. Consistent. Her body saying the same thing in the same language every single night. And she kept changing her socks instead of listening to what the mark meant. Here is what I want you to take from Dorothy's story. Your body is not dramatic. It doesn't send emergency signals for small problems. When it shows you something consistently, the same swelling, the same mark, the same tightness, it is not complaining. It is reporting. And a report that goes unanswered long enough eventually stops being a report and becomes a condition. Look at your ankles tonight. Press your finger gently into the skin above the ankle bone. Hold for 5 seconds. Release. If the indentation stays, even for a moment, you just received a report. Don't change your socks. Listen to what the mark means. If Dorothy's story felt like your story, don't scroll away. Leave a comment below. 2 or 3 words. Tell me what you've been noticing that you haven't said out loud yet. Because someone will read your words today and realize they're not alone in what they've been seeing. And that recognition might be the moment they finally decide to act. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Hit the like button if Dorothy's story reached you. Subscribe to Strong Legs, Independent Life every Tuesday and Saturday at 11 a.m. Because your body has been talking. It's time to start listening. Keep smiling, keep moving, and never forget, you've got this.